Hi everyone and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. For today's episode, I wanted to highlight a few questions I asked RFK Jr. in my recent interview for George Magazine. This interview took place on October 7th, just a few days before his historic announcement that he is going to leave the Democrat Party. And of course, I had to ask a few questions about George Magazine and his cousin, John Kennedy. You can find this full interview in George Magazine issue 13, or you can find it on georgevideo.com under Not Just Politics as Usual, which is my other show, episode 5, which is the full RFK Jr. interview for George Magazine. It was so fun to get to meet Robert Kennedy, and I hope you all enjoy this episode of the George Collection. Speaking of the Kennedy name, your cousin actually started this magazine in 1995, and his vision for a political magazine that featured left-leaning and right-leaning articles and contributors seems so far-fetched in today's divided political world. I'm curious, what did you think when you found out he was starting a political magazine?
Well, I talked to John during that part of his life almost every day. So I understood what he was trying to do, and I supported him. I admired him for it. He was trying to make, number one, he was trying to make politics interesting to people. He was trying to give it kind of a popular base. So he was, at that time, the big magazines that were doing well were like People and Us and the gossip magazines, and he wanted to bring, kind of a celebrity, the same kind of, celebrity appeal to politics as people felt when they saw the gossip magazine. So part of it was that, which was an interesting idea, and then part of it was just, let's have a magazine that's, instead of left and right, a magazine that talks to all interesting people and finds their humanity.
Yeah.
So, he would have people on there like Kellyanne Conway and Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh, people that he politically did not agree with, but he had friendships with them, and Fidel Castro on the other side. Mm-hmm. Or Louis Farrakhan, or people who were, who were very, very different with each other and were pitted against each other. And he tried to, he wanted a place where everybody could come together and just talk about our humanity.
Such a weird concept these days. Yeah. It seems like we don't get that much.
Crazy.
Do you think he would have run for president?
John?
Yeah.
I think it's possible. I mean, I talked to him about it. He was, he said, when we were in that era, for him and me, almost everywhere we went, there was people who, wanted to talk about the Kennedy family and their experience with it. John said, that John had a gift for mimicry, so he could mimic any voice, whether it was a Russian or a Jamaican or an Irishman or a Scottishman. He had really just a genius for it, and he would do an impression of of what it was like walking through the airport in Boston, where every other person is coming up and saying, "I knew your father," and he said, I'm going to wait till all those people are gone, and then, because I think he wanted to run, not on the Kennedy legacy, but he wanted to run because he was capable, he had great ideas, and he was interesting, and he was charismatic. And so I think there was part of him that said, I don't want to do this because everybody in my family has been doing it, and then run on the Kennedy name. So it was, I thought that was admirable about him too.
Yeah, well, we're very honored to be a part of the revival.
magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, I mean, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late-night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.